All right, a word problem, woohoo. The area of a rectangle is 45 square meters, and the length of the rectangle is 1 meter more than twice the width. Find the dimensions of the rectangle. All right, a rectangle is a four-sided figure where opposite sides are parallel and congruent, and all four angles are 90 degrees. The area of a rectangle is 45 square meters. But I also need to know that area is equal to the length times the width. All right, now they tell me the length of the rectangle is blah, 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 blah. They never ever say the width of the rectangle is. They never tell me that. So guess what the width is. The width is x. And then the length is 1 meter more than twice the width. 1 more than twice the width, and the width was x. Would you be quiet? I'm trying to do, my cat's driving me nuts. Okay, so over here, area they told me was 45. I'm gonna stick 45 right there. And then the length and the width, I'll just plug in. The length was a 1 plus 2x, and the width was just x. All right, now, to solve for x, I'm gonna have to get rid of the parentheses. And really, to make this look a little more, I don't know, user-friendly, since all I have here for width is x, this looks better when I put x times a 1 plus 2x. That just looks much better to me, because I'm gonna use the distributive property to get rid of the x, or sorry, to get rid of the parentheses. So I'm gonna take x times the 1 and x times the 2x. X times 1 is just a 1x, and x times 2x is a 2x squared. And then this is still equal to 45. As soon as I distribute and that x squared shows up, I now realize I've got a quadratic equation, which means in order to solve it, I've got to set it equal to 0, pray that it factors, because if it doesn't, I'd have to use the quadratic formula. So, first things first, I am going to put these two terms in the correct order. You want the 2x squared to go first, because that's your quadratic, and then the x to go second. Next, I am going to subtract 45 from both sides, so that I end up with 0 over here. And then here I'll have the 2x squared plus the x, and then the subtract 45 at the end of that. Once you have it set equal to 0, then you're going to try to factor it. So, kind of running out of room, so follow me. 0 is equal to, in order to factor this type of a quadratic, this is the kind that starts with a coefficient other than 1. So I am going to use what I call the AC method along with grouping in order to factor it. Now, some people just try to do it by trial and error, and that works too. The quadratic formula always works, but I like to practice my factoring skills. So the AC method, if you have your quadratic in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c, you are going to take whatever A is and whatever C is and multiply them together. So in this case, my A is a 2 and a negative 45. I'm going to multiply these two things together. So 2 times negative 45, I'm going to block it off over here like it's scrap paper. That's going to equal a negative 90. And I'm looking for 2 factors of negative 90. The factors of 90 are 1 times 90, 2 times 45, 3 times 30, 4 doesn't go in there, 5 does 18 times, 6 goes in there 15 times, 7 doesn't, 8 doesn't, 9 does, 9 times 10. After 9 would be 10, but 10's already over here. It's like I've turned the corner. So I found all the factors. Now keep in mind, it's a negative 90. So one of these factors has to be positive, the other has to be a negative. And it has to add up to the middle term of positive 1. So I'm looking for the pair that has a difference of 1. That would be 9 and 10. And since I need a positive 1, I'm going to make the 9 the negative and the 10 the positive. And then you're going to come up here, and your first term is still your first term. Your last term is still your last term. But you are going to replace your middle term with a minus 9x plus a 10x. What you're doing is you're going from 3 terms to 4 so that you can factor by grouping. And literally what I have found, when you look at all these pairs here, the pair that you pick ultimately will be what outsides and insides are if you were to FOIL back your factored answer. You know, if you wanted to factor it and check it and you FOIL it, one of your, either your outsides will be negative 9x or the 10x or vice versa in the insides. So now that I've got 4 terms, I'm going to factor by grouping. I'm going to just look at the first 2 and say, what do they have in common? 2x squared minus 9x. All I can pull out of there is an x. And when I pull out an x, I'll be left with a 2x minus 9. Then I'm going to look at the back 2. Since that's a positive 10, I know there's got to be a positive sign here. And 10x and a negative 45, or 45. The only thing I can pull out of there is a 5. A 5? Yeah, 5, because 10 won't work. So I pull out a 5. 10x divided by 5 is 2x. Negative 45 divided by 5 is a minus 9. And you'll notice both of my parentheses match. So that's one of my factors. My first factor, and I always put the matching one down first, but it really doesn't matter, is the 2x minus 9. The other factor is going to be this x and this plus 5 together. X plus 5. What? Shh. I am so sorry. That's Duke. He's just a needy little thing. So now I've got it factored, and then you have to go back to that whole if A times B equals 0, then either A is 0 or B is 0. So I'm just going to take each term separately. I'll just use my black pen. Either this guy is your 0, 2x minus 9 is a 0, or this guy is 0. X plus 5 is equal to 0. Over here, I'd subtract 5. That cancels, so I get x is equal to negative 5. But that can't be an answer. I'm looking for the dimensions of the rectangle. X is my width. You can't have a width of negative 5, so sorry, that one makes no sense. Then over here, I would add 9. I get 2x is equal to 9, and then I divide by 2, so it'd be 9/2, or also known as what, 4.5 or 4.5. Well, I'm looking up here and it's got this little fraction thingy, so I'm guessing it wants the fraction, so it'd be 4.5 meters. So my width is 4.5 meters, or it might take the 9/2. So, of course, in real life, I'd be like, hey, 4.5 makes more sense to me out in the real world. So that's my, oh crap, that's not my length, that's my width. Hello, April, pay attention. Pay attention. My width was X, right? My width was X. So width is X. I should have put my 9/2 right here. And then to find the length is 1 meter more than twice the width. So I got room over here. 1 plus 2 times, the width was 9/2. So I'll plug it in there. And then, oh, that's nice. My 2's will cross cancel. So I'm just gonna be left with 1 plus 9, and that adds up to 10. So, sorry, this should have been a 10 meters. So 4.5 meters by 10 meters. That's a pretty big rectangle. And that's the end. Am I done, Duke? Am I done? All right, I'm done.